Alright, so here's the gearbox assembly, and last time I played around with this, I think I had already determined that I am going to be able to partially assemble this gearbox yoke deal and then install it. And it does look like I just have enough clearance to do that, so I feel confident enough that I'm going to put a bearing in. Actually, I think these bearings are actually a kind of a loose fit in these little yeah, these are a loose fit in the yoke here, or whatever you want to call this bracket. The original ones were also a loose fit. Okay, so just wanted to make sure I wasn't. I mean, I already know these bearings are the right size, so okay. So it's a loose fit here, but it's a press fit onto the shaft. So will I be able to get this over that? Yes. Okay, so I can start by pressing this bearing onto this shaft. Actually, that's a loose fit too. I forgot what the term is. There's a term for when this brace slips on the shaft instead of the bearing turning. And that's actually not a good thing to have happen, so I'm wondering how that's supposed to stay tight. Right, so then this would of course go in here, but before I can do that I have to install this gear as it passes through here. And I want to know, there's a tapered pin that locks this gear onto there, and I want to know which side of this hole is the large size. So looks like I can just eyeball see that this is the larger size. So I'm going to have the larger size facing out towards me, and then look at this gear and do the same thing. And again, that's the larger size. So I want the two large sizes to be on the same side. Ouch. Alright. So that's going to go like this. Right? And then this actually moved on me a little bit. That bevel gear is oh, well, I'll tell you what, I just put it on backwards. The teeth are going to be facing the wrong way. Dummy! Not sure it's tight now. Ain't that a kick in the head? Let's try that again. Yeah, actually, gear gets tight when it gets onto this part of the shaft right here. Well, if I have something to put in here as a spacer and then tap that shaft, I'll be able to make that move down that way. So, how about an old bearing? Too short. Oh, how about that inner race of that other old bearing? I think that's too short also. Better. Yeah, the problem now is that this collar, which I didn't bother taking off, is actually now going to be pressing up against the new bearing in there. So I need to have something quite a bit taller than this actually to make this work. Alright, how about this nice spacer? Well, it's not going to want to turn on there. Sure hope that hole lines up. You know, maybe I should. I'm just noticing, I don't know if I ever really cleaned that shaft. Maybe that's why the darn thing's so sticky. Take it out again. The reason why I say that is because it slides on pretty easy until it gets to a certain point, and then all of a sudden it gets tough. And I'm thinking that shaft's probably the same dimension all the way down. Yeah, why don't we take a couple of minutes and clean that up. Oops. I just sprayed this with the foaming, 3M foaming engine degreaser, let it sit for a couple of minutes, and then just wiped it off with a rag, and all of that old grease came off of there, and it was really waxy and gummy. So now, let's see how she fits. Still got a little bit of a tight spot there where it comes down to that area, but you can see I'm able to do that now. So that might have been a no-brainer to everybody but me. Alright, try this again. Wonder how the inside of that looks. And you know what? Let's wipe that out too. Alright, large hole facing up towards me. Large hole facing up towards me. Alright, holes lining up just fine. Gonna go find that pin. Well, I went to the hardware store today to get a nut that I had lost when I was working on the Oliver. Put the link together on the Oliver. Anyways, while I was there, I decided to pick up a couple other things and figured, well, you know, I figured out that I'm missing 3 taper pins from this gearbox assembly. So I said, well, I'll see if they've got them. Sure enough, my local Abushan hardware had the tapered pins. So I was going to get 3 of them, and then I looked and was shocked to see that the cost per pin was $1.75. And not only that, but I had brought one of the gears with me, and I didn't like the way that the pins were sitting. And I think actually there's nothing wrong with them. But so I hit the hardware store, got that pin, and you know, they were $1.75 a piece. So I didn't buy 3 of them. I bought 1, partly because I wanted to come back and renew my efforts to try and locate the other ones, and partly because when I put this pin in at the store, I noticed that when I put it in, it actually goes in a little further than the other pin did, or it seemed it to me. So right now that one's going in, actually, depending on which way you turn it, goes in just below the surface. Whereas this original pin goes in, and if anything, it sticks up a tiny bit, or is perfectly flush. But maybe that's not that critical, I don't know. Anyways, there's 2 fine thread screws, these large ones. I know these hold that bracket into the box, so it's a good thing I found those. 6 of these size screws right here, which I know are for these bearing retaining deals here. So that's all good. But I also found this shim, this thin, very thin shim. So I've got to figure out where that goes. I'm going to have to go back and review my own video just to figure out where that goes, because I'm sure I made note of it when I was taking it apart, so I can make sure that it goes in the right place when I put it back in. I have a sneaking suspicion that it sits on top of this bevel gear right here, only because I can actually see kind of a ghost there of where that something was rubbing that, and it almost looks like it's this size. So I'm thinking that's what that is. Alright. Tonight I'm going to be cleaning off this part of the Sipp drill press, the quill, and the quill holder, I guess, or support arm. I don't know the proper name of it. Completely disassemble this, or disassemble it quite a bit anyway, and I'm just going to clean off as much of the grease and gunk as I can before I set about disassembling it, so that I can A, get a better idea of what kind of fasteners I'm dealing with here before I can take it apart, and B, not end up with a black hand every time I pick the thing up. A lot of grease and oil on this thing. Well, it's mostly grease and oil that now has dirt stuck to it from years of sitting. That's like, that stuff there is almost like tar the way that's on. That is going to be an excellent job for the 3M foaming engine degreaser to attack that stuff. But I'm not going to don my respirator tonight, so I have to hold off. I'll do this. I'll treat this with that outside during the day.